Here we go. So this comes to us from Block Club Chicago and Mina Bloom. Residents of West Humboldt Park Encampment lose their belongings in a dehumanizing city sweep. We see these tent cities all over Chicago. It's dehumanizing to begin with that anybody has to live in these circumstances. Just imagine with what little you have, the city decides to come in, clean up, throw your shit away, not give you a chance to like retrieve your property, and just have no plan whatsoever with where to guide these people, how to help them with all the empty real estate and property we've got throughout the city, while we're dishing out billions of dollars to Israel to fund their missile program. People in Israel, thankfully, have, I guess, the best healthcare in the world, and we're paying for it.
To further fund their missile program.
But people there, people in Europe, they take care of their citizens. And what are we doing? We're shoveling our money out to other countries to give them good lives instead of these poor people who are living under overpasses and bridges in Chicago. Anyway.
Yeah, so, but even if we're putting aside the lack of national support, just the local support seems to be really, really
abysmal,
underwhelming.
It's abysmal.
It's abysmal. Especially when we have, the city gets, COVID relief funds, and the way that they decide they want to use them, I don't know.
Ed, I only wish our alder people, or as I like to call them, alder creatures, not all of them. There's a small handful that I have respect for. But just imagine how many lives could have been changed had they spent more time trying to help these people, right? These people over here, instead of endlessly lobbying to change Lakeshore Drive to Jean-Baptiste Point de Sable Drive. How long did that take? And these people are sleeping under bridges and underpasses, lower whack. It's disgusting. Let me get into the article, though, because it'll make your blood boil. And what are the solutions? I don't know. Let's talk about that at the end. This comes from West Humboldt Park. Residents of a West Humboldt Park homeless encampment are scrambling after the city did a sweep of the tent city and threw out their belongings Thursday. They have so little, so naturally the city's got to throw out what little they have. The city cleanup started about 9 a.m. Crews went through the encampment on Chicago Avenue, just east of Kedzie Avenue, where about 30 people experiencing homelessness live, and discarded items in the public way. It's not like they don't know that stuff belongs to people either. I understand you want to keep the neighborhood clean. Well, they want to keep the neighborhood clean. Of course, this is what they focus on instead of other neighborhoods that don't have people living under bridges with their belongings. The city has conducted such cleanups for years, drawing scorn from people experiencing homelessness and their advocates. Several residents lost their belongings. If it wasn't in a tent, the city threw it away, resident Angel Roman said. Roman, who's lived in the encampment for about a month and a half, lost new clothing, a grill and food, including boxes of cereal and noodles. He said he was sleeping when crews arrived. Roman said a man who lives next to him lost everything because he doesn't own a tent and sleeps on a mattress with his belongings around him. The man was at work when the sweep occurred, Roman said. Just because we're here don't mean we're not human, Roman said. At least give us the decency enough to grab our stuff before you just start throwing it away. Alejandro Flores Rebola, deputy press secretary for Mary Lori Lightfoot's office, said there was a sign up for 7 days warning people a cleanup would be conducted. Well, that makes it all right then. A sign up for 7 days warning people a cleanup would be conducted. She denied that crews tossed personal possessions, even though multiple residents said they did. And who are we going to believe here? The officials or the people who lost their stuff? No personal belongings were thrown out in the cleaning and clients were not displaced, Flores Rebola said in a statement. DFSS, homeless outreach staff, worked with residents on site to identify items they wanted removed during the cleaning. The only items removed were furniture and bulky items not considered personal possessions.
Well, okay, whose word are we going to take then? These homeless people, this is the last thing, their last known possessions. Are they going to lie about them throwing them out?
And really, what motive would prompt them to do such a thing?
I understand that the city needs to do what the city needs to do for whatever justification they want to have. But you have to put people first, and the city needs to find a way to do that better than they're doing it now.
Well, as I was getting through this article, I was reminded of another headline that I saw on Block Club Chicago that I'm going to see if I can find after I finish this story as a quick little counterpoint. Let me pull it up here. Bear with me for a moment as I'm scrolling through last week's stories, and I'll continue. Let me finish the article. I can see if I can pop through and find it. Heriberto Munoz, a resident of about 6 months, described the sweep as dehumanizing. Munoz said crews came in real quiet, blocked off the viaduct with trucks, and threw residents' belongings into a garbage truck, very, covertly. The only notification residents received was a notice with small print affixed to a pole near the viaduct. And there's what they saw. Munoz lost clothing, shoes, and personal photos. Others lost furniture, he said. They crushed sofas, tables, the little furniture we had to keep our stuff on, to maintain some kind of civility. They took everything, he said. A city notice for September 1st cleanup was posted near the viaduct Thursday. City officials had defended the sweeps as routine cleanups of public spaces meant to keep residents safe. But residents of the West Humboldt Park encampment said the sweeps have the exact opposite effect. Munoz said more emphasis needs to be put on programs or classes for people to move from the streets into an apartment. Without a program to help people transition into permanent housing, they will end up back on the streets. That is the major problem, is the transition, he said. A lot of people who are down here have apartments and don't know how to transition into them and haven't gone. Deliana Appleton, another resident of the encampment, didn't lose any of her belongings in the sweep, but only because she knew to store everything in her tent at the time of the cleanup. In past sweeps, the city has thrown out her clothes and cosmetics, as well as printed copies of her daughter's and mother's obituaries, Appleton said. This just fucking infuriates me. Generally, the sweeps are terrible, Appleton said. It's sad. It's kind of like a tragedy. Appleton fell on hard times after her father left, and she moved to the encampment about 5 months ago. She said she's on the Night Ministry's list for permanent housing, but her name hasn't been called yet. And let me say something. The Night Ministry is an amazing organization. I used to volunteer for them many years ago. I have a friend who's volunteering for them now, and if I can make the time, I'd like to see if I can get more involved with them. But they're a phenomenal organization up here in the North Side that offers temporary permanent housing. They have a health bus that goes out several times a week to give food and coffee, and they have a nurse on board to help people in these communities. They've got nowhere else to go. So shout out to the Night Ministry. I love what they do. Living underneath the viaduct is horrible. A bad situation made much worse when someone throws out your belongings, Appleton said. She said she lacks basic necessities like hygiene products. I never thought I'd be in a place like this, she said through tears. So the article that I wanted to bring up here that I found on Block Club Chicago, this was from last week. And of course, that's why it's taking me a little while to find it. Oh, I know where I can find it because it's a downtown news story. Maybe that can get me to it faster. I just figured I'd bring it up on screen as we talk about it. But the gist of it is that while these people we can't find solutions to help these people, this is what city council is instead spending their time on. And I found it, and I'm going to put it up here. Priorities. Plans for a 21-story residential building on the near north side approved by city council. Have 178 residential units, retail on the first floor, and 53 parking spaces. If we don't have enough empty housing all over the city, whoever's involved in this particular development that got passed through City Hall is going to be doing really well while these other people are stuck on the streets. Anyway, your thoughts?
I don't know what else to say. I keep seeing priorities of this city, and it's like everything is always slanted toward how they're trying to make money for somebody who and not trying to help residents of the city.
They're helping residents. They're helping the residents with money that they're doing deals with and getting all these their cronies. Here's the lady. This is Deliana Appleton, the lady I spoke about a moment ago. This poor woman. I don't know, man. Let's go to the live chat. We've been talking here. Let's get some of our viewers' comments. Yes, Arturo, it is inhumane. The U.S. needs to return to being an isolationist country. City sweeps happen because Love Tagore, city sweeps happen because the rich don't want to see it. It's exactly what it is. This is what we saw happening in Uptown under Crappleman. They closed all of the temporary housing hotels that a lot of people who needed and used for lodging that couldn't afford apartments. They shut those down, redeveloped them into expensive condo complexes. Then, when those people who had nowhere to go ended up under the overpass on Lakeshore Drive and in the park, they chased them out of there. It's because the rich people in these neighborhoods that are being gentrified just out of sight, out of mind. That's what it's about.
Yeah, but
you lose all that when winter's coming. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't keep shuffling people around like that forever. Especially, I mean, how many thousands of people still without work right now, looking for a living wage job? How many people who have probably been foreclosed on recently or are on the verge of that? I don't see how a city can't see that coming and think, we probably should focus more on making sure that everybody has a roof over their heads at the bare minimum and a job so that they can keep contributing to the economy that they seem to be so desperately concerned about.
Yeah,
It's a no-brainer to me. I don't know why the people with no brains can't see it.
People who say that they've got the brains. Gabo Hernandez, my alderman in the Portage Park area, sent city workers to throw away people's belongings. What a obscenity. Love Tagore. What if you lost baby pictures, memories of your mom and dad, or when a time when you weren't homeless? That's exactly what they did. They threw away these people's personal belongings like that. Gaba says it was the people who live under the bridge. One other comment. In my city, they are knocking down affordable housing and building condos. That's what's happening here too. Love Tagore. I don't know what city you're in, but that's pretty much commonplace here in Chicago. This we're seeing all the time. Yeah, all of the affordable housing is gone, and I don't know who can afford to live in these condos and stuff.
I don't know,
empty buildings downtown.
I don't know what else is going on, but there seems to be a lot of developer noise trying to put up homes or condos or apartment complexes, even like right near me. Over in the 33rd Ward, they've been my alderman and former alderman. Some people remember Richard Mell actually agree on scaling back this one 6 or 8 story. I think it was an 8-story monstrosity they wanted to put up in Irving Park. When it wouldn't look like anything else that's in the neighborhood.
They do this up in the suburbs. I mean, I'm from Wilmette, and one of the charming things about growing, and for people that don't know Wilmette, I will say if you live maybe over in Park Ridge, it's a similar type of suburban residential community. You go to downtown Park Ridge, there's just such a beauty in the nostalgia of that downtown square has character. They don't tear stuff down and erect new stuff that doesn't properly match what's there, because they have pride in their community and the community's history and the community's character. Up in Wilmette, it's just like they're building these monstrosities, these McMansions in residential neighborhoods with small houses, and they just stand out like sore thumbs. And it's you got the money, you grease the city officials' palms, you get whatever you want.
Oh, and to top it off, when they have those requirements where that say that they have to have affordable units, what qualifies as affordable often is unaffordable. So even if some of these things go up and they're not a complete eyesore, the people who might want to try to live in them, in an affordable way are shut out. So the gentrification happens. You got these people coming in and wanting to clear out the homeless encampments. Nobody wants to help these people. Why wouldn't we help? Why wouldn't we help our fellow man get back on their feet and help? Especially if your mindset is that we need to get everybody contributing back into the economy. The last thing you should be doing is shutting people out of it.
Watch out, Ed. You're sounding like a bleeding heart liberal or a socialist. So talking about affordable housing, dirtbag leftist has this to share. The ski town they live in's latest affordable housing proposal has 3-bedroom units that would sell for $400,000. That's what they consider affordable housing, I guess, in a ski town. Gabo Hernandez shares, during the pandemic last winter, there was a crapload of homeless people on the Blue Line trains. Every morning going to work, there were trains packed with homeless people sleeping in them for warmth. And because they're, they don't have the right place to put them or a safe place to put them. And I'm sure the homeless shelters, I know there's a Pacific Garden Missions over in South Loop. It's a pretty big facility, but again, there's only so much room that these facilities that are there to help people have to help people when the city's not doing more. Love Tagore, Arturo Medina. Yep. And where will the working class live? People who serve you coffee, walk your dog, and do your dry cleaning. That's exactly it. The people who want to be served don't want to see these people or don't give a shit where they live, as long as they're out of sight, out of mind when they're done. And before we move on, truedemocracynow.org, how you are treated by your government is the result of those elected in the last election. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we saw, I don't want to shift into national news, but briefly, when we saw that story of the vote last night and AOC, who I hope that she gets nominated for an Academy Award this year for the crocodile tears she shed after changing her vote to present. She was the one who was most critical of Tulsi Gabbard for voting present when they had the impeachment hearings against Trump. And AOC was out there talking about how it was cowardly and spineless. You had to take a stand voting yes or no. And of course, once Nancy got her mind right the other night, she came out and voted present for that money that was being appropriated for Israel and cried about it just to show everybody how I think
it's one of those things where she's finally realizing that she either has to have principles or she has to risk her election seat or whatever. And it's like, having principles, sometimes that's enough to get the support you need to get reelected. Or if she decides she wants to primary Schumer or whatever her future plans are in New York. And so, yeah, she has to weigh her options as to whether she's going to have a no vote in her voting record or she's going to have a present vote that people might ignore. But, a lot of people are going to remember this, that she didn't stand by her principles. And, she seems to be compromising herself a lot lately. And that's
all the time with these.
And that's not something you want in a politician. The candidate, the way she ran, the position she took as a candidate is how everybody wanted her to behave. And that's not what happened. Without getting too deep into national politics.
Yeah, I know. But it's, they're all kind of interconnected. And I understand her district was gerrymandered. So there is a large Jewish community now in her district. And, in an effort to make sure that they don't vote against her, she voted present for this bill. What's shocking to me is, like, does AOC not think that there are Jewish people with conscience who are as disgusted about the apartheid that we're witnessing? There are many Jewish people. I mean, they're all over media. It's just like it's unacceptable what the government of Israel is doing. So if the concern was that the residents in this Jewish neighborhood were going to vote against her, that's a sad statement on her thinking that they're all supportive of the apartheid that's going on over there. But
yeah, it would seem to me that the group think in Washington that's overwhelmingly pro AIPAC or afraid of AIPAC must have put a fear into her. I don't agree with that tactic. You got to stand with your principles there.
Support policies, not politicians. Yeah,
exactly.
There needs to be a more humane ways to get people off the streets where diseases can spread. There's so much housing empty and available. Yeah, we talked about that all the time. It's like there's more empty housing, I think, than there are homeless people. We just need to get UBI and federal jobs guarantee. Well, Mayor Lightfoot proposed a $500 UBI for qualifying families in Chicago during her budget address earlier this week, but I think it's going to be very limited to how that $500 per month is distributed, I think, for a year to families and how they qualify. It's a good step in the right direction if it happens.
Yeah, it's the thing with UBI is you're just supposed to distribute the money and let people do what they need to do with it. And the problem we often have with politicians is they want to throw means testing onto everything.
Yeah, they don't means test the rich.
It's not going to help.
They don't means test the rich or the corporations. Only the individual that is struggling. And Gabo, no, yes, you got that phrase right. I use it a lot myself. We got shit libs still defending the squad. This is why we can't criticize them all over social media and Twitter, especially the apologists for the squad. It's embarrassing to see anybody standing up for these people when they've just so completely betrayed the people who voted for them and backpedaled on promises that they made and are just completely part of the system now.